Hello everyone, welcome to All About PhD by Dr. Ritika Gaba. In today's video, we are going to discuss the advantages of being a full-time PhD scholar. We've already told you a lot about full-time PhD in the part 1 of this video. Remember, we had told you who is a full-time PhD scholar, what activities do they take in, what kind of fellowships do they get, and do all PhD scholars get a fellowship? So in the last video, we had told you we are going to come up with a part 2 of the video in which we are going to tell you about 11 advantages of being a full-time PhD scholar. So let's start today's video. The very first advantage of being a full-time scholar is that you have an option to apply to the world's best universities and institutions. Yes, I'm using the word world because the concept of part-time PhD and full-time PhD is not native to India. Across the world, most of the reputed universities only accept full-time PhD scholars. So that is one thing. Secondly, there are many private and deemed universities who, even if they are giving you an option of part-time PhD along with a full-time PhD, then they very clearly state that they would prefer full-time scholars over part-time scholars. So there are certain universities who have reserved seats. So they say that 80% of the seats are reserved for full-time scholars and they are accepting only 20% part-time scholars. So that's the first advantage of pursuing a PhD in full-time mode. The second advantage is obviously fellowship. I have time and again in various Q&A sessions told you that fellowship is given, whether by the government or by the institute, is given only to full-time scholars and not to part-time scholars. Coming to the third advantage, which is related to your fellowship. So many institutes over and above the fellowship also gives a number of additional perks to their students, like you are given HRA, that is house rent allowance, or you are given an accommodation from the institute to stay in. In fact, some give you family accommodations. Then you get money to travel abroad in case you want to attend a conference to present a paper related to your thesis, but this happens only once in your entire tenure. Besides this, traveling within India for giving presentation is also allowed by certain institutes. You get startup grants, you get an office space to work, you might get allowances for buying a laptop. So these different perks are also given to full-time scholars. But of course, as I've already said, not all institutes do it. But yes, certain institutes do provide all these perks to their fellows, full-time scholars. Coming to our next advantage, which is providing a fellowship, getting a fellowship and working as a full-time scholar is an extremely prestigious thing. Imagine you are getting money from the government or from the institute to study, to do research work, to come and publish papers, to come out with patents. This is such an thing to take pride in. So yes, getting a fellowship and doing a full-time PhD work is extremely prestigious. Let us discuss the fifth advantage. So a full-time scholar usually gets more time to focus on their research. A part-time scholar has to juggle between their work, which is usually in itself very demanding, and they have to simultaneously do work on their PhD as well. Whereas a full-time scholar can completely focus their energy on doing their research work. So yes, as a full-time scholar, you do get more time to focus on your research. The next advantage is having a complete academic and research environment. A full-time scholar in the university meets so many or is working with so many other scholars. he meets his guide regularly, he meets other faculty members. So the entire environment is very academic and research, which obviously motivates a full-time scholar to focus on their research work and come up with something innovative or keep doing their work. So this is again a big advantage for full-time scholars. So the next big advantage for a full-time scholar is the access to library, labs, computer labs, and other facilities and resources of the institution. So most of the institutions have taken subscription to various journals. They have computer labs where they have softwares related to various statistical methods or plagiarism. They then definitely have experimental lab, that is science labs. So obviously, if you're a full-time scholar, you have very easy access to all these facilities, which is a big advantage while you are doing your research work. Whereas a part-time scholar, usually only when they go to the university, they can access such things, and individually buying subscriptions to various journals or various softwares are quite costly. So yes, this is again an advantage for full-time scholars. Besides this, the next advantage is having support of senior research fellows. Any person who's completed their full-time PhD would vouch for the fact that what important role their seniors have played in their PhD journey. So of course they have a guide, but their seniors also help them a lot during their research process. They help them partly because their university and guide wants them to help, but also because of the friendship which builds over while staying together. So many times most of the research work and various methods are taught by seniors to their junior scholars. So that's another advantage. The next advantage which full-time scholars have is related to fees. So in one of the previous videos on 9 facts about PhD from IIMs, we had told you how full-time scholars pursuing their PhD from IIMs do not have to pay any fees. There are other universities who, even if they don't waiver the entire fees, but they definitely give a discount to their full-time scholars, and in most of the universities the full-time scholars end up paying lesser fees as compared to the part-time scholars. Besides this, the other advantage is in the total or the minimum duration of pursuing a PhD. Many universities have said that the minimum duration for pursuing PhD for part-time scholars is longer as compared to a full-time scholar. Coming to the last two advantages of pursuing a full-time PhD. So you get exposure to a lot of teaching. So if there is anybody who's taken up PhD because they want to pursue a career in teaching, even if it is a part-time career or a full-time career in teaching, then for those people, they get a lot of exposure to teaching and other aspects related to academics like evaluation and invigilation and seminars and conferences. So overall, while you're doing your research work, you're also getting trained to become a great teacher. The last advantage, which is probably a very important advantage, is the access to placements. Yes, there are certain, very few though, but there are certain institutes which are helping full-time PhD scholars get placement support also. So this is also an advantage for full-time scholars. I hope you did like our video on full-time PhD and you've learned all the aspects of full-time PhD. If there are still any questions left related to full-time PhD, then we would love to answer them. Please do subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and ask us your questions in the comment section below. This is Dr. Ritika Gaba from Zenith PhD Training and Consultancy, and we are here to empower you with genuine, in-depth and well-researched knowledge. Thank you for watching my videos.